Hi, everyone. It's Becky Livingston from Penn Hill Marketing, and today I want to talk to you about paid search advertising and some best practices. This is going to be a really interactive session, so there's going to be some activities, a lot of show and tell kind of stuff. So let's dig right in. It'll probably be about an hour long, and let's see where we go with this. So, we're going to be talking today about paid search advertising. And paid search advertising best practices. Here's a little bit about me. If you haven't heard anything about me before, I'm Becky Livingston, the founder of Penn Hill Marketing, and I've been in marketing for over 30 years, accounting marketing for over 20 years, a college instructor, a business owner. I own a business. I'm a trainer. I'm a author. I do a lot of public speaking, and I'm a big dog lover. Here's some of my contact information as well. So, as we think about paid search advertising and some best practices, here's some things that we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about how to create an ad strategy to amplify your business message and to target your audience. We're also going to look at driving traffic through pay per click, Google Ads, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. We're not going to talk too much about those other places, but Google Ads for sure. And then how to start your first campaign. So, what is paid search advertising? It's a type of digital marketing that allows companies, any size company really, to pay search engines to place their ads in a higher location than organically. Here's some examples. I did a search for some accounting firms near me in New Jersey, and here's some two examples of firms that showed up in those results. So you can see they've got their headline, they have a little bit of a description, they have a link to their website and locations. The second ad down here at the bottom is actually a little bit better than the first one, but we'll talk more about that as we get into the program. So as we think about paid search formats, there's many different kinds of advertising that you can do. Text ads, like I just showed you in the previous screen, is probably the most common in Google. You can reach any customer using that uses a search term or keyword that identifies something that you want to promote and advertise with. For example, tax preparer near me, since we're near tax season for accountants and CPAs and tax professionals, that might be a term that people would use to find you. Responsive ads, they are just about any type of ad and can go anywhere in the Google network. They could be graphical, they could be video, they could be ads that are text based, they could be image ads, banners, skyscrapers, rectangles. There's all kinds of responsive ads. And they can go on any kind of platform, Gmail, Google, YouTube. There's 250 Google different platforms that advertising can go on. That would be one of those types of ads that could go anywhere. An image ad that reaches customers in the partner Google program. And those are not video, they're not text, they're strictly graphical in nature. That might be a banner, they could be a square, they might be a rectangle, something like that. You can also do app downloads in Google ad formats. That's a really interesting option if your company has an app that it wants to promote. You can link directly to the app in the ad platform, or you can put your app in the store in one of the app stores and you can drive people toward that link instead. There's video ad formats, which are great on the partner program. You might see those on websites that you frequent. There could be a video format there. And it's also extremely popular, of course, on YouTube. There's the shopping and display ad formats. That's great for people who are shopping for products. You might see an ad like that show up. Let's say, for example, you're looking for women's running shoes. You put that in the Google search, and at the top, you'll see a shopping display of different companies offering women's running shoes. They'll be in a different kind of ad format right there in the search result bar. There's also something called the calls only, and the calls only strictly drive traffic to your business with a phone number. They have a phone number in them. People can call you right from there. Think of this like almost like a food delivery option. That's the closest thing I can think of. People can call to order food. You might need directions for something. Um, something where people can call they need some more assistance. So there's those types of ads as well. When we think about ads, the first thing we need to be thinking about is our headline for the advertisement, particularly when it comes to text search ads. So the next time you're dreading your pay-per-click ad campaign and creating those headlines, here's some tried and true tips. The maximum character count, including spaces, is 30 for each headline that you create. You can utilize title case rather than sentence case, so putting a capital letter on every word in that headline. Using high volume keywords, at least in the first headline. We're going to talk more about how you find those high volume keywords in a minute. And also including your brand name in a second headline. And think about you have 3 headline options at least to get started. And think of your first 2 as the headlines that will show up in case the third one doesn't appear. Because like on mobile devices, sometimes the third headline doesn't appear. So don't put your most important information there, but definitely include a third headline. Here's an example. Headline 1, New Jersey accounting firm. See how every letter is capitalized at the beginning of the words? Second headline, Roth and Spellman CPA. That's the brand name. The third, serving Northern New Jersey since 1979. Not a critical headline, but a nice headline to have if all 3 are going to show up. Next, you want to think about the description for your headline and your ads. So the next time you're dreading that, think about this. Each description has a 90 character count, including spaces. Now, that might sound like a lot, but I'll tell you, when you start writing ads, you're running out of space all the time. It's kind of frustrating, but learning how to fit your character count into these space limitations is really important. So when you think about your descriptions, and you have multiple descriptions, I think it's 4 or 5 that you can put in an ad campaign. Offer a unique selling point in the first description. Use a call to action in the second description to convert your viewers. Here's an example. For over X number of years, great service has always been our top priority, and it still is. In the second headline, the clock is ticking. You can't afford to wait any longer. Get answers now. And that combination of descriptions will be Google will actually flip them back and forth to see which ones people click on, the most combinations that work the best. They're going to optimize your ads with that combination. So when you're jumping in for the first time or after you've done this 100 times, think about this type of formula. The next thing we need to consider is the length of our URL. So and how we can improve how our URL works. It's important to remember that your display URL, the URL that searchers will see, does not need to be a working URL. It must be a maximum of 15 characters, including dashes. The display URL must match the domain of your destination, but you can add a unique combination of the words after the slash. So here's an example. mycpafirm.com is the domain. That part's a given. That has to be real. After the slash, that's the part where you can make it up and you have up to 15 characters to use. So I have construction-CPA. I believe that is 15 characters. That's not the real URL to the link. This is only for display purposes. So it's easy for people to remember. They can use it. It's in the ad so they can see it. But what you want to remember is that URL that is real can be, I think, up to 256 characters. So you have quite an extensive length in the real URL. You'll need that as well. Then there's something called site link extensions. These are very interesting, and a lot of people don't leverage these. It doesn't cost any more to use them, but they're really popular to include additional advertising meat or bonus points, if you want to think about it that way. Site link extensions include things like hyperlinks to different pages on your website. So if we're an accountant and we're thinking about tax season, you might link to your tax business prep guide. You might link to your individual tax prep guide. You may leverage some other links on your site that make sense. For example, um, audit services or advisory services, payroll, um, exit planning, whatever you might have. Those site link extensions, you get 4 of them. Site link extensions link to other pages on your site so people can look around. Maybe it's our about the team. It's your website, so pick one of those really high profile areas that you want to promote. You can add call extensions. This is a phone number. You get one of those, but you can provide a phone number right in your ad. Doesn't cost any more to put any of this stuff in here in your ads. You can add a location extension to display your business address and phone number. You can have offer extensions. So, for example, you can provide a discount or a special offer directly through only your ad. So maybe it's like promo February or love CPA, something like that. So you know exactly where people are coming to your website from because they're using an offer extension. And then there's also the app extension to help people find your business app through your ad copy. They're easy to set up and are not any more costly than doing your normal ad without any of these elements. So why wouldn't you put them in there? Here's an example. Number one, the first thing is your headline. The New Jersey accounting firm Ross Spellman CPA serving Northern New Jersey since 1979. And by the way, that's a real firm, but I made up this whole ad. Number two, for over 40 years, great service has always been our top priority and still is. That's description one. Description two, the clock is ticking. You can't afford to wait any longer. Get answers now. Number three, here are some of our extensions, our call out extensions. Bergen County, award winning firm, team of 250. We have site link extensions. These are links to different areas on your website, tax, accounting, QuickBooks, payroll, for example. I'm also leveraging the location extension, which is obviously their office location. And then I add the phone number so people can just, if they're on their mobile device, they can just push that button and it will call the office. So this is the maximum best practice use of a text ad in Google, including all of these elements. It doesn't cost any more to do it. So why wouldn't you? Right? Right? Now, there's a great tool that I use to help me keep some of this stuff in play, and it's called Karuya. There's the whole link for it up there on the top. It's called Karuya.com Expanded Text and Preview Tool. This allows you to use this tool and you can actually create your ad in here. So it starts with you've got your final URL. That's the real landing page URL. That's the page on your website where you're driving people. You have some opportunities to create 3 headlines, and it has a counter mechanism right here to help you see how close you are to meeting your description or headline length. It also offers you the path headline. So that's where you can get that extra 15 characters to drive some things there. It has a couple of description options, but it also all these boxes over here on the side, you can actually fill all those in so you can see how the ad looks. Now I used that when I created the previous slide. So this is a great little tool to help you get in practice of creating these things. You can also use an Excel file with a length field if that's easier for you. And I often use one of those with my clients. I give them an example in Excel and I give them some blank rows with character limits on them so that they can craft their own headlines if they want to do that. So this is just a fun way to do it as well. It's online, it's free. Why not use it? The next thing we want to look at is images and sizes. Now, these two links actually are fantastic to help you figure out what image sizes you need for any ads with graphics or video format. This is really important because if your images are not sized correctly, Google will not accept them. And I've run into this so many times. I think I've got the right size. I upload it and Google will say, nope, it needs to be this size. So always look for these kind of ad display sizes and go back to them often because they do change occasionally. So go back and look at them and make sure that you're following the image and size formats that you need for graphical ads. Those bookmark those. They're great to have in your little design pocket as you're doing some PPC advertising. Next, we want to talk about calls to action. Why do we need a call to action? We need to draw people in to do what we want them to do. So, writing a call to action using short and strong words is not only more persuasive, it's necessary due to the character limit on ads. So, take out those passive words like please call today, get rid of please. Make it more punchy, use positive and negative verbs, things like save, get, enjoy, stop, don't, quit, avoid. I love the word avoid. And add a reason why someone should do what you ask them to do. Call and see how we can help. Or stop wasting time, book today. Consider a sense of urgency if your ads are time sensitive. Time is running out, call today. Those types of things, those are all call to actions that are fantastic. And here's 107 calls to action examples you can steal now. I love that little piece. I've looked at it many times. She's got some really fun stuff in there. So take a look at that from Unstack. Great formula, great calls to action in there. Think active language, not passive language. You could, and here's a little tip if you're interested. If you're using an AI writing tool like Article Forge, Chat GPT, whatever it is, ask the system, ask one of these AI tools to write you calls to action for advertising, a strong call to action, and it'll ask them for a list, and it'll create it'll generate a list for you. Fantastic. Then you don't have to think it all up yourself. Use an AI tool if you need to or want to. Landing pages. Oh, Lord, what is a landing page? I need that too. Yes. A landing page is where your ad drives people. It's the place where they land. It doesn't have to be on your website. It could be a Facebook landing page, a LinkedIn landing page, your Etsy store. It could be um, something on a dedicated URL. So there's lots, you could do it in MailChimp, Constant Contact. There's lots of ways to create a landing page. Some of the things that you need to think about when you're creating them to boost conversion rates and reduce your cost per acquisition. And that's important. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Think about your message and make sure that your message matches the ads that you're running. There's nothing worse than clicking on an ad thinking you're going somewhere. And when you get there, it's a completely different kind of campaign. And you're like, why am I over here? What am I doing? Make sure the message matches from the advertisement to the landing page. Keep the action above the fold. You can see here we have our call to action button and form is above the fold. It's right at the top. Don't move that down too far because you're going to lose your opportunity. So you definitely want to keep that near the top. Use directional cues to direct the eye. So think about how the eye works. And for all the years that I've done graphic design, we talk about the Z pattern, which is like this. That's how an eye will go. There's also what's called the F pattern, and that's your eye flowing this way. So both of those are really important to think about. And if you're working with a designer, just keep that in mind. Make sure your eye goes where it needs to. So we've got our headline right in the center, right above that fill in the box. So that's a great Z pattern there that they're using. Show your product or service in action if you have a product or service. This is important. A lot of people make pages on their website, which has sidebars and footers and all this kind of stuff. Make sure on your landing page there's nothing else on it that can distract the user. If you're creating a regular page on your website and you have a sidebar or a search box or something else over there, that's going to be a distraction for them. Get rid of that stuff. Make sure it's a landing page that you're creating, which is unique. It doesn't have a lot of navigation on it, doesn't have a lot of opportunity to get someone distracted or lost on your website. Clear and compelling copy, very important. Take the best practices you've learned from writing headlines. Punch up your copy, get it out there, make sure people are paying attention to what you're doing. And design for the right device. This is important if you really are running like a mobile campaign versus a desktop campaign, because the look and feel could be very different. A mobile, you want it to be very columnar, you want it to be singular. And if it's a web page, you can use side-by-side graphics, boxes, things like that. Oh, number 8. Yeah, this is a big deal. Test your landing page. Make sure that when you fill out the form, it goes where you want it to go and does what you want it to do, especially if you're using a CRM. And then here's a good tip. Number 9, consider using a template. If you're using WordPress, Squarespace, HubSpot, any of these types of tools, all have landing page templates in them. Why not just use one of their examples? They're tried and true. People know how to design those things because they've built them. Destination URLs. Oh, goodness gracious, so many things to think about. This is your real URL for your link in your ad. Now, there's different kinds of URLs. There's our lead gen page. This has a form on it usually. Not usually, it does. It has a form of some sort on there. Could be first name, last name, email address, company, all kinds of fields to fill out, or it could be as simple as first name, last name, email. That is a lead generation page, has a form on it. There's also something called a click-through page. This is a landing page that you have a call to action button that then leads over to a form-based page. So either one of those are fine. Look, you have 2,000 characters. I do not recommend that, using 2,000 characters. 200 characters is plenty. But you have a couple of options here with the type of page that you can link to. Keyword research. Now, this is a tough part. This is probably the hardest part of doing the whole thing, I think. I think it's also the most interesting. To do keyword research, we need to be thinking about how our campaign is designed. And usually a campaign has a couple of ad groups within it. For example, if I were selling sneakers, the campaign would be called sneakers. There'd be an ad group called women and an ad group called men. Each of those ad groups would probably have different keyword phrases that people use to find them. On the women's side, women's sneakers, women's tennis shoes, women's runners, women's walking shoes. That would be on the women's side. On the men's side, men's walking shoes, men's running shoes, men's tennis shoes, men's. So the keywords are different and the ads would be different as well. So when you're thinking about your keyword research, if you have sub ad groups breaking up that campaign, you may have different terms or keywords in each of those ad groups. So what does that really mean? What is she talking about here? Here's an example for tax season. Tax season campaign, my first group is individuals. My next group is business. My individual tax ad campaign ad group would have different keywords than my business one. Individual, 1040, tax deductions, tax preparer, things like that, where the corporate or business one might be S Corp, different forms that are related to business tax returns, business tax deductions, business tax preparer, those kinds of things, S Corp, corporations. So let's see what we can find. So I actually put that campaign to the test, and here are some tips that I often share with people before they do their research. Start with your website, search keywords. If you have access to your website analytics or Google Search Console, use that because it will tell you how people organically find your website. What keywords are they searching for? If there's terms in there related to the campaign you plan to run, like tax preparer near me, use that because you know they're already using it to find you. Then you can leverage keyword planner tools like Google or WordStream, and here's a couple of links to each of those to help you find that keyword stuff. And I'm going to use Google's keyword tool, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Also consider high traffic misspellings. So I used to work at KPMG, and we often use the misspelling KMPG because we found that so many people spelled the firm's name wrong that we use that in our ad campaigns. It costs less. It's because it's not a branded keyword for us. It costs less to use, but it was frequently searched for. So look for some misspellings. If your brand is easily misspelled, use that in your campaign as well. Look for related keywords. For example, tax planning, tax accountant, tax firm near me, CPA near me. These are some of the places you start. These are not your final terms that you're going to be using necessarily. This is just something to get the machine to help you fill in the blanks. And the last one, this is kind of confusing, but you'll see it when I show you the results. High volume, low competition keywords are the sweet spot. And what that means is they're searched for a lot, but brands generally don't buy them for some reason, so they're inexpensive. So there's a lot of opportunities because during tax season, some tax words can get up to $50 a click, I've seen. Commonly in the $10 to $15 range per click. So we're going to be looking for high volume words that have low competition. That's a sweet spot, particularly geographically, because phrases can be different from one geography to another. And I'll show you how that looks as well. So here's an activity. You do not need to be logged into Google to do this. You can go to the Google Keyword Planner tool. There's the link to it right there. Click Go to Keyword Planner. Click Discover New Keywords. Enter a few keywords for individual tax, such as individual tax preparation, 1040 tax return, and personal taxes. Enter your website domain. Click Get Results. Change the location from United States to your state or even your city, and each person's results will be different based on geography. Change the date, for example, during tax season, and then download the list. So that'll give you a list. Great big long list. I think this search resulted in about 700 keywords. About 650 of those were no good. So what does this look like? You can see here that I put in tax service, accounting service, personal financial returns, and tax filing. I changed my location geographically, and I was testing this. Des Moines, Iowa compared to New Jersey. Here are the tax words that I entered to do my search. And I also changed the date from January to April, that time frame. I wanted to see what the numbers were going to look like from January through April. Here they are in New Jersey. These are the words I started with. They both have the same keywords. 722 keywords were available. Most of those were not good. And what do I mean by not good? They didn't have any cost to them. Here's an example. They had no cost. They had no top of page bid, which means people don't use them. On the previous slide, I had said you want to look for high search volume and low competition. For example, here's one. These top two actually, 1040. Low competition, but pretty good volume in New Jersey. And it's cheap. Look how inexpensive it is, $1 per click. I would use that one. Tax return, almost the same thing. We've got one right down here, IRS refund. 10,000 to 100,000 searches per month, low competition, little dollars. It's $1 for that click. Free tax filing. You do not want that one because you do not work for free. And we'll talk about negative keywords in a minute. So you kind of what you do is you look through your list and you say, okay, what makes sense? But look at this. This is an interesting thing. I want to show you this too. Clear this drawing. Each of these states are using the same exact keywords, right? But our cost per click is different. Here's 1040 in New Jersey. It's $1.08. Here it is in Des Moines, Iowa. Nobody searches for that. Maybe they don't have income tax in Iowa. I don't remember. Personal tax, same thing. New Jersey, $2.14. Nobody uses that in Iowa, so I wouldn't use that keyword phrase. Let's use another one here. Personal tax accountant. Nobody uses that in Iowa, but they do use it in New Jersey, and it costs $4.30. So this is what I want to show you about. Make sure you put your location in there because each one of your locations could have different keywords relevant to that location. So if you have an office in different cities or different states even, you've got to do this research by location because just because it works in one does not mean it's going to work in another. Does not mean it's going to work in another. So that's the most important thing you need to do with keyword research is finding the right terms to help you choose the ones that make sense for your geography and your budget. What's next? Let's see. Negative and competitive keywords. You definitely want to think about some negative terms that you do not want your ads to show up for, especially during tax season. Exams, jobs, hiring, free, cheap, those kinds of terms. And you can think of quite a few of them, I'm sure, that you do not want your ads to show up for. Let's say, for example, you don't want to do any 1040s or any work related to individual tax. You might even use the word individual tax. You might put it in your negative list. So you don't have your ad showing up for that service that people are looking for. You can also research your competitors' keyword terms to see how much they cost. And you can put those in your keyword list. So if someone searches for TurboTax, your ad's going to show up. If they search for H&R Block, your ad's going to show up. Free Tax USA, Tax File, Tax Act. It's it your ads will show up, but you don't necessarily have to offer the same services they do. So for example, TurboTax, we know what that is. It's a software, blah, blah, blah. Many of the professionals that I know don't particularly care for the tool because it doesn't offer as extensive detail as they want in some tax returns. So if you use TurboTax in your keyword search, if someone looks for TurboTax and your ad shows up, they may call you because they trust a human more than they trust the software. I don't know. Might be an option. You can always try to run a campaign with an ad group that's dedicated to just some competitor terms to see how your ads perform. Here's another tip. Bidding on competitors' brand terms is usually expensive. I can tell you now, TurboTax and H&R Block, those terms are going to be expensive during tax season. And they can quickly chew through a modest budget. So if your budget's like $100 a week or, $200 a month or something, this could chew up that budget quick. And it could impact your return on investment. But all those things known might also make you might just want to try a campaign for a week and see what happens. And run that ad group in your campaign, turn it on and turn it off just to do a test and see how it goes for your brand. Now we're talking about money, forecasting, and budgets. So once you have your list narrowed down, so I downloaded my 772 keywords. Once you have your list narrowed down, enter your final terms into the forecasting tool. So Google has a forecasting tool also, and it's free. Determine what your forecast and budget by geography is. Remember to change that location. So I'm doing this location. Here's my keyword research by New Jersey. So I can see that here are my best keywords. I mean, this whole chart right here are my best keywords. I'm going to enter this list of keywords into my forecasting tool. I think there's about 15 or I'm sorry, 20 keywords that I'm entering into the forecasting tool because I want to see how much I need to budget. So I enter those terms into my forecasting tool. So once it's narrowed down, I want to put quotes around those words because if I don't put quotes around them, each word could be considered a search term. So I want to make sure I'm looking for a phrase. IRS refund is a phrase. Tax refund is a phrase. Calculating tax return, phrase. Put quotes around the terms in your forecasting tool. Your forecast and budget will be determined by geography. Remember to change that in your ad forecasting tool. So put quotes around them and then make sure you look at it by geography. So here's the example. This is what came up. I put in my best terms with quotes around them for $1.8 thousand, $1,800 with an average daily budget of $30 a day. I can estimate 634 clicks on my ads. Estimate. So that's not too bad. Not too bad. Cost per click, $2.79. Woo, that's fantastic during tax season. Look at this click-through rate, 13%. Fantastic. That's phenomenal. If you do anything better than a 1.4 or 1.5 click-through rate during tax season, you're doing something right. And your average cost per click is under $3, amazing. Usually during tax season, it's well into the double-digit numbers. So this gives me an estimate. And that's why you do your research, so you do not blow that budget. They give you a certain amount of money. Here's how many impressions you can expect. Impressions are the number of times your ads show up. Estimated number of clicks. So that's what I can expect. This is what my forecast is telling me. I'm also going to see some data as I'm running the ad. So here's a case study for an accountant that I ran ads for last February through April 9th. Because he does international tax as well as US tax. February 21st through April 29th, that's what we did. Our average cost per click, $2.97. I couldn't believe it when I saw his ad campaign come through with that, with that number, because I had never had a tax ad campaign come through with that low of a number. $2.97 a click, 19,000 impressions, great for branding. He got 547 clicks and he spent about $1,400. Now, you might be saying, oh, that's all fine and good, great clicks, blah, blah, blah. But what were the end results? Did he get anything from this? So as we look at some additional detail about his ads, we only ran a few keywords and we narrowed it down as the campaign was working. Those were the final keywords that he ended up using. We had 4,300 impressions, 201 interactions. Our click-through and interaction rate wasn't too bad, but look, our cost per click went up right here. Our average cost went up. It started out at $3 basically, but it went up to an average of $6.23 per click. Overall, we spent $12.50. We got 201 clicks. And our conversion rate. So what does that mean? The conversion rate means they not only clicked on the ad, they went through to the website and completed the action, which was the form that we wanted them to click and complete. So by having some additional tracking mechanisms on his website, we were able to look at his conversion rates. So how many people not only clicked on the ads, did they also go through and complete the form? So knowing what that is, seeing that income tax filing. So for example, I look across this row, income tax filing didn't convert at all. So next year I won't, well, this year, I mean, 2023, I won't use this. But if I look at tax services, that performed really well. 12 conversions off of that one. Woohoo, that was the winner off of all of it. Costs about $6, got a lot of impressions, a lot of clicks. So this year, I know I'm going to keep that one in the running. So we've talked a lot about all of this stuff, kind of fast paced, a lot of things to think about. So here are some takeaways that you want to think about. Choose the ad format that makes the most sense for your brand. Text ads, graphical ads, video ads, etc. Create unique headlines using caps on all of the words and maximize your character count. You have 30 characters, including spaces. Try to use as many of them as possible. Leverage your URL paths to help differentiate products and services. So, like we had there, mycpafirm.com/construction tax versus real estate tax versus whatever your services and products are. Use site link extensions. They're free. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Use unique calls to action. Look at that list or use an AI tool to help you come up with some fantastic call to actions. Create an effective landing page. Supply an easy to use display URL. That goes back to that mycpafirm.com/construction tax. That's the display URL. Do research and avoid assumptions. Oh, I cannot tell you how many people tell me what words we should be using. And then I give them the data and they're like, why isn't that word on there? I'm like, because nobody searches that way. So think about those keywords and do the research. Consider negative words that you do not want your ads to show up on. Maybe you don't want your ad to show up when TurboTax is used or H&R Block or free tax filing or whatever it is. Use some of those words. And finally, remember to change your geographic location and your date when forecasting, setting a budget, and identifying your keywords. If you don't do that number 10, you're going to be seeing numbers that may not even be close to what it costs in your geography. Number 10 is a big one. That's all I have for you today. If you like this presentation, we have a whole bunch of things like this on our YouTube channel or on our website. So feel free to go check those out. And I'll be releasing probably another webinar in later this quarter or maybe early in the next quarter. So thanks for joining me today. Hope you had a good time. Lots of tips and tools, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.